It's Tuesday evening, just after 6 p.m. UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in Bromley in southeast London. And with me is Gregory. Gregory, how are you and where are you?
Well, I'm here in Brussels on a sunny day.
Very good. Here in London, very, very sunny, warm, hot day. I think 25, even 27 degrees today. The warmest day so far. So yes, welcome listeners. Thank you for joining us. The aim of this show, the Spiritual Discussion Program, is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrusheen. And we have a new topic every week. The topic for today is abundant blessings from on high. Abundant blessings from on high. We welcome you to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abdrusheen is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abdrusheen. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic we're discussing tonight is abundant blessings from on high. And to say it again, abundant blessings from on high. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. And I just want to tell listeners today is the 1st of June. That is the, according to the, you could say, climatic calendar or meteorological calendar, they say this is the beginning of summer, the first day of summer, 1st of June. So, and we've been blessed with lovely, lovely sunshine here, bright sunshine. In fact, as we said, it was the warmest day so far this year. So welcome listeners to the show. Gregory, just to repeat the title, our title is Abundant Blessings from on High. So blessings is the key word. Well, let's say that's what the main, yeah, it's not only the key word, there's other words here, but one main word. And so I looked in the dictionary, Gregory, this word, the word blessings, and it said they're God's favor and then protection. And when I looked up favor, a little bit more about this favor, I found it says gift, mercy or benefit. So I'll just say so I've got the meaning of blessings in the dictionary: God's favor, meaning gift, mercy or benefit, and protection. When I think about it, Gregory, that is in a way very short, sort of brief definition. And whenever I think of the word blessings, it means much more. You know, it could include many, many more words than just that. So I just want to check with you, Gregory, what do you say about this definition, God's favor?
Well, you'll find that once the word blessing is tied to particular views, then it loses its real meaning. One already see partiality and things of that nature, whereas a blessing remains the same. It's not partial. It's not. It doesn't do favoritism, as is being pointed out. So, when this expression is used, it must first be looked. It must first be understood in a more intuitive way. So it is what it points to intuitively that gives a more precise coverage of this particular, of the meaning of the expression blessings. For one who wishes to be objective, as is looking at the world itself, it should not be separated from the natural happenings. For living, or life itself, as seen even here on earth, is such that it sprang from nature. So whatever is discussed must be discussed in relation to nature, rather than taking it out with no real context.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. I immediately, when you use the word nature there, or natural, it occurred to me, yes, some things, when we are, let's say, how I read the meaning of the definition of blessings, favor there, God's favor, yeah, it sounded like partial, like you say, and nature is like, you could already say, covers a very broad world. And what I really want to say is, it sounded like, the blessing can be something special in a certain case. But nature is always there, Things are born, things are growing in nature, and which you just take it for granted, actually. And sometimes you might think, when we, let's say, say something about blessings, it's like you're pointing something special out. And even actually, when you think deeply about it, actually that's happening naturally. The sun comes out every day. We grow things, plant things, and there's a harvest. Yes, not always it's a good harvest or rich harvest, but let's say that's what normally happens, and we take that for granted. And sometimes we say this word blessing, you might think, something special is happening outside of the norm. But really, what you have pointed to, Gregory, is that something to be taken as something specifically special, but to be taken as something natural. Would I be right in what I've said there, Gregory?
Partially, because along the line, it would be necessary to go into details in accordance with the reference, in accordance to nature, albeit the rules that govern nature. Then, when seen from that context, maybe it will now unfold richfully for many.
Thank you for that again, Gregory. What I'm seeing already, let's say, as a humanity, we are good at pigeonholing things. This is what that is, and this group, and then there's something in another group. But as you say, when you see the broader picture, you will realize actually it's all one happening, you could say. Just you're only recognizing it as time goes, you start to see it like this. So yes, thank you for pointing that out. I want to look at, you said natural, and there's laws of nature there. So does it mean, Gregory, the blessings are always happening automatically, or can there be something you can specially request? Yes.
When it is put in the way you've just done it, do they occur automatically? Of course, they do, because they have always been there. The challenge for many is that due to their attitudes or their state of immaturity, They are unable recognize that what has been there, for instance, being able to breathe in and breathe out, being able to walk around, being able to eat, because there are many, due to their inattitude, have not been able to link these ones to the manifold opportunities of blessings which have been granted the personality. And the problem now comes when that which had been taken for granted through their attitude, they are unable to make use of it. Only then do they now reflect and say, oh, that was some blessing one had. Only then do they now long or cry out for it. So that basically has been, the phone checks very carefully with fellow human personalities. That has always been the attitude.
Again, thank you for that answer, Gregory. What I'm seeing is like, you could say this attitude is the real issue again here, because taking things for granted, assuming everything will happen, and or even not even recognizing, just like I said, the sun comes up every day, and nobody questions that is going to happen, and it's just presumed and assumed, and then and through this sort of attitude, you can just not really realize actually many other things. You just said, like, for example, we're allowed to breathe, oxygen. We take that for granted, so many things. And then there may be moments when we have a need, some need becomes to the surface. Then we say, oh yes, how essential this is, and how so there is something, you could say, missing with us in our how we live, that we don't start with that appreciation from the beginning. Now, I'm just wondering, Gregory, how should our attitude be? Should we be always thankful for everything that we experience? Yes, how do we make this attitude that we are now open to be aware of the blessings?
It will not be right to stress what a person's attitude should be. For all, again, because particular individuals have different needs. The only time they appreciate many things is when that which has been taken for granted is not available. Then they themselves can appreciate it. And that should suffice to teach everyone a valuable lesson. Lessons of value. For it is not helpful to say, oh, you must do this, and that, it doesn't go anywhere. But if that which they have enjoyed all this while, and they have ignored, is unavailable for their use, then, and sadly, and only then, will they come to appreciate that which they had assumed all this while. Such lessons stay within the person for a long time. Maybe then they will learn to give proper thankfulness. Thankfulness in the sense, first, they will prepare themselves to ensure that they know how to use that which now is missing. It's like someone's health. When one has vibrant health, it's taken for granted. As at the time that is not the case, then that calls for a bit deeper reflection. Only then, at that time, will many start reflecting, if only I can have this back, I will do this. And if they themselves are genuine, are sincere in this, then many a time they will prepare on how they would like to go with all their strength, such that when their health is back, they are able to live happily, not only with themselves, but also with their neighbors, understanding what challenges they themselves have gone through. So it is not right to say, do this, don't do this. Only through valuable experience can a human personality mature. So what one gave was just a counter example that sometimes turns out to be very valuable and helpful.
Thank you again, Gregory. In my mind, I'm thinking, there's so many examples of blessings. Like you talked about health, and you could say being protected, being guided, and so many things we are just taking for granted, as we've mentioned right from the beginning. And but if you just need to, let's say, reflect for a moment on our lives, how we are, where we are living, how we are eating, But immediately when you think of that, when you say, when things are like, as I say, good, you don't reflect on it too much. But if you just for a moment think about it, then you say, okay, where is this coming from? I mean, our topic is abundant blessings from on high. In other words, the blessings are coming from the Creator, the Almighty God. And I know many people may not acknowledge that or accept that, but they know that they did not create this world, so this is not, they are not the source of the blessings. They might contribute, but they're not actually the source. So I'm just thinking, if you mentioned the nature, Gregory, maybe that's where we can start. That we have come through nature. Nature provides so much for us, the earth, the weather, the everything, basically, for us to exist. And so, and we can just think about that. Where is that coming from? And I think that maybe that's where you could say the source. Once we focus on that, then we can start seeing the blessings for what they really are. I'm just, Gregory, do we need to be, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but do we need to be taught? I know you sort of answered it already about these blessings. Because we know from the, let's say, history or from spiritual teachings, writings have been, messages from the Almighty have been sent to mankind, to point to the Almighty. So does it need that, we need that education, if I can use that word, that enlightenment, to wake us up? Or can one discover that by himself individually?
Well, when one looks at it carefully, one will find that there are so many things available, and because one had not evaluated that which is available, one is unable to give proper value to it. And therefore, when you find that, in quotes, there are teachings and available through, some may refer to them as religion, or say sciences, whatever they care to call it, or even common sense. The right value is not given to it. And therefore, many things are ignored. And that seemed to be the biggest challenge. For in the first case, how can anyone, provide evidence that these teachings came from on high? For when these teachings are examined, they are themselves very simple. And they are self-consistent. So you will start wondering, how come it must be a teaching and someone has to mention it came from on high before one appreciates it? So it has always been the problem of not exerting oneself to know more than it needs to know in its immediate neighborhood. The further you wish to examine yourself and investigate further what is not in your immediate neighborhood, then you will find that you then call certain skills into questions, that means you'll be asking questions, all right? First in your nearest neighborhood, then as you perceive it, intellectually, because you see these things, you perceive them intellectually in the first instance. Then along the line, you start wondering the motive, the driving force behind all these manifestations. Only in that manner of continuous examination, motion, movement, will certain things become revealed to you. Then, in a step-by-step manner, one will start perceiving more than there is than one has seen with his physical senses. One will start perceiving that although I see things physically, there seems to be more to it. Although I can hear things, there seems to be more to it. It's as if there's some motive, which for now I cannot discern. And coming from that point of view, quietly, the investigator will be asking for help to discern these things. That means the investigator is moving from a point of cognition of what, which means what he has seen, heard, or what he has perceived with the five senses physically, to more of recognition, which is more of becoming more intuitive, and striving to see the motives and what makes things move. That is a process which every human personality is capable of. Therefore, that will be, in quotes, the right way. When teachings are mentioned, then it will be, oh, this group was given this, that group was given that, or we have not been given this, or this come from the Almighty, and all that. And you find that when these things are mentioned, the so-called teachers end up to be hypocrites. They never believed in it. They want others to follow it. They who, in quotes, received, who claim to know, don't even follow it or even understand it. So that's why even teachings, because of their naturalness, self-consistency, simplicity, they are not recognized. Only those things which are very complicated to understand, which in many cases you find in the so-called sciences or in the so-called religious circles. Only the complications, they try to understand the bits and they give credence to it. But that which is simple, many do not follow. And yet it's only simplicity that can guide the human personality to greater recognition.
Thank you again, Gregory. Again, I can see that we are now expanding this subject, and opening a road of how to approach to the understanding of blessings and where they come from. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is abundant blessings from on high. Abundant blessings from on high. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. We're broadcasting on blessradio1.com. That's blessradio1, the number 1.com. Also, we're broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and then type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. Bless Radio 1 space live stream. And then after the show, you can listen to the recording of this show the next day. You go to YouTube and then type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space Grail Message, and then space the topic of the show, which tonight is abundant blessings from on high. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well. Gregory, what we were talking about just before, It's like there's a road of exploration. We are explorers. We human beings are explorers. We're always discovering things. And these blessings, as we mentioned there, we are aware of them, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. And then we were asking, how do we recognize them, where they come from, and so on. And is it reading something, teaching, or our own, exploration? And I did like the idea of, discovering on our own, because, no two people are the same. And in the end, if you do read something, it's like you're being indoctrinated into something. It's not really, in a way, real for you. It's just somebody else's opinion, you can say. It's not real for you. And the real, when you yourself see with your own eyes, it will be more real. So I do like this approach where, you discover for yourself. And I would say each of us have different questions in our lives. So if we were to, let's say, read a text, it would be almost, somebody else answering their question rather than us answering our own questions. So I do like this approach there. And at the same time, Gregory, we are aware there are many teachings, as you've said, and there could be conflicting things they're saying. And then we would be lost to say, who do you believe? Is it this one, or is it the other one? Or maybe they're both wrong, because how do you know? So you also mentioned about nature, because that's basically, we're talking about blessings, and nature is like the most, we know it comes through nature. So maybe we need to pay attention closer to nature, how it works, and so on. But Gregory, I really want to ask, can we really understand the process? Because, even if we say, oh, the sun came through some, there's a creator that made this universe, and then, this happened, and this happened, this process. I'm in my mind, I think it's too much to really understand this process. So maybe the most we can do is appreciate, Gregory. So my question to you, Gregory, are we just meant to only appreciate these blessings, or can we really get to the source of how the process what brought the blessings to us?
Well, again, one should reflect very carefully. You mentioned that a teaching and sometimes be contradictory and all that. Teachings which are self-contradictory would not get anywhere. Therefore,
apologies, please carry on.
One should not be considering the expression teachings this time. One should consider the expression language. Here we are speaking the language of English. There are others who can also speak the language of French, or even they are different. Therefore, the first key that the human personality needs is the language. It is the language and the attitude behind the language that may open paths or close the paths. In every language, be it spoken or written, there are the poetic expressions or the prose expression. Therefore, the language which nature presents, which language is universal, is that not the one which man needs to learn rather than talking about teaching this teaching or that teaching, which on the long run may be helpful depending on how he himself is matured or not matured for it. Every human personality here on earth is a product of the activities of nature. Therefore, the first key thing that they need to know is to understand this language through which they came to be here on earth. So it doesn't have to be this teaching or that teaching, but strive to understand nature itself, the way nature expresses itself. By nature, one should not just consider that, oh, when you go to the woods, that is nature. Or you go to the streams, that is nature. That is part of nature. What is referred to now as nature is when people are dealing with, in quotes, animals or the plants in their undisturbed state. But one should also know that we ourselves are part and parcel of nature. And that if we do not understand how to live aright in harmony with nature, that therein lies the problem. And that is what is referred to as being unnatural. Again, through vigorous activity for many who wish to know more than what they can perceive with their physical senses, due to their activities, they come to know more. And because they know more, it becomes personal. Personal because it was they who did the investigation. So it is also with these so-called teachings. If, however, you pick up a teaching and you do not investigate, examine it thoroughly, then you end up in a situation where what has been assumed, because you don't understand it, you can't get far. But if, however, you examine it thoroughly with reference, again, with reference to nature, then, because you are an integral part of nature, you cannot be that wrong. For nature will return to you that in accordance with its rules. Which rules? Again, one may refer to reciprocity, like a reciprocal action. The more effort you put into it, the more you get when one investigates in all naturalness. That may not be so with teachings, unless that particular teaching is in harmony with the rules which have been sort of hewn into nature. Therefore, whenever there is a discussion or a teaching, the first rule, which is universal, is that rule which is in line with nature. And at the same time, one must understand one is a part and parcel of it. So one should strive to understand What these rules are, that motion is something in nature, that there must be continuous motion, continuous investigation in all the phenomena, all the happenings in nature. One has to keep investigating it. And in doing that, you'll find the more you dig into it, the more it reveals itself. So it's not only understanding what one can see or perceive with their physical senses, but in pursuing certain things, trying to understand what lies behind it, which is the motive, things are revealed. Revealed in the sense one is then led through many an experience for it, what lies behind it, to be uncovered. It's as if a bandage has been loosened and one now come to a bit of better recognition. That is what nature demands, that you understand it. Only through understanding can you now live in harmony. You cannot live in harmony with something you don't understand. Then one will find that it is now joyful to keep along this line rather than to hold on to a teaching which is dry because one lacks the right attitude.
Thank you for that, Gregory. When you were talking, I started to think of patterns in nature, patterns in our lives. That you plant seed and then you get the plant and it goes into harvest, fruit, and so on. And with the human beings, you could say the cycle. There's a life cycle as well. You're born as a child, you grow up to adult, and mature, and you die as a old age. I say in general, that's normally the norm, you could say. So you can see there's a pattern there. And then another one you can think of is balance. If you overeat, let's say your health will be affected detrimentally, or something of that will happen, or you'll overuse the resources on the earth, and then you cause pollution, and other things and other people will suffer. So you can see those, you could say, principles or patterns from nature, which is let's say existing in the human ways as well. And then I'm thinking, Gregory, the nature has its own system working in an order, in a balance and everything by itself. The human beings, they create their own system, and yes, let's say in theory, you can make it work with nature, but in many ways we just do what we want to do, and then people suffer from it. In some cases it happens that people suffer because we are not in balance. And I'm just going back to the topic tonight, which is abundant blessings from on high. And what I see, Gregory, is that nature is eternally, the blessings are constantly there. With the human beings, the blessings, there are some there, but they seem to be they seem to be temporary sometime, rather than constant. Like, nature is always, let's say, flowering and bringing benefit. With man, it doesn't seem to be the case in many cases. So I'm just wondering, and the title is Abundant Blessings from on High. So it looks like nature is taking the blessings from on high and, constantly in tune, it's like in a happy balance, you could say. But humanity is not doing that. So what I want to ask there is there something that man is not, because you said man is also from nature or is a part of nature, but somehow in this matter, in this particular section, it's not following nature. Yeah. So what's happened there, Gregory? How come man has separated from nature?
Man separating from nature makes his activities unnatural, which only means man hasn't studied or reflected enough on the values that nature provides, which values are tied up to the rules or the laws which nature had put in place. And when one's activities goes against these laws, then he or she becomes unnatural because it's not in harmony with that which has been put in place. It must be done willfully, or looking at from a different direction, indolence. Only when indolence sinks in, not only indolence of the intellect of the physical body, but the indolence which appears in such a way that you are unwilling to investigate further. Investigate further in the sense you say, oh, I'm satisfied with what one has achieved. So you are in a situation where even when a teaching has been granted showing how one should investigate further in little steps, this teaching is not understood in the right context, and therefore it is not pursued vigorously, but it's only pursued, it's, oh, let me do the little I can and leave the rest. Not understanding that there must be continuous improvement, like you will find in the case of music or in the case of opera where someone has to sing. You won't say, oh, I've done the best I can, that's the end of it. Before long, you find that person is unable to sing as best as he used to do, and he keeps sinking. The same thing happens with the case or in case of teachings. So it is not sufficient to take them on face value, but to find out what lies behind it or the motive. In the case where so-called 10 commandments were given, they were not even understood. Yet it was echoed again and again. The lack of understanding made them come to a standstill. Whereas with nature, there is continuous improvement. Motion, continuous movement in order to mature. So that is what is demanded. Every other thing are just excuses of not being able to move forward. So whatever is given and is not valued rightly before long, it will become not a blessing this time, but it will then drag the personality down.
Thank you so much for that answer, Gregory. And right at the end, you pointed to that, if we are not working with nature or, the rules of nature, then there is a, let's say, very negative consequence of the blessings turning into, let's call it, disaster. And we might just not really see it because we are surrounded by blessings, let's say, in one side, and sometimes some areas we are seeing, yes, it's not, let's say, working, but because there's so much good around, blessings around, we can sort of just be blinded by that and ignore the areas which are, where things are not working. So, and you said constant motion, constant effort of development, and it's you see that in in the economy, where new things are coming, or new inventions are being made in science, you could say. Constantly you see it, but again, I think that what's happening is we only see the one aspect of it and take things for granted and not really take it, oh, this is absolutely necessary for the whole life, in every aspect of life, So, and yes, it's almost like until you suffer, only then you think, oh, maybe something isn't right here. So thank you for bringing that out. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is abundant blessings from on high. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comment. You can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we're broadcasting on blessradio1.com. That's the website, blessradio1, the number 1.com. Also, we are on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space, live stream. And our shows are recorded. You can listen to the recording of the show the next day. Just go to again to YouTube, and then in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space, Grail Message. That's 2 words, Grail Message. And then after that, the topic of the show, which tonight is abundant blessings from on high. And you can also listen to our previous shows as well. Gregory, I know we said we wouldn't go into, let's say, the work has to be in terms of knowing more about blessings and knowing more about nature is to work with it by yourself, work with it, through yourself and get to your own understanding. However, I just want to pick up, to discuss something that Jesus said. He said, the sun shines upon the just and the unjust. And obviously we know nature, the sun comes through nature. So what does that mean, that the sun shines on the just and unjust?
Of course, the sun shines for those who have the right attitude or the just attitude. They can make progress. The sun also shines for those who do not yet have the right attitude and therefore are granted the opportunity for change, for further recognition. They are granted a respite. Should one say the sun shines and then the unjust are taken out of it? One should not forget that person who yesterday had a distorted attitude through experiences may come to final recognition and then appreciate the values of the sun. So the sun shines for those who are for now able to make progress and have the just and right attitude. And yet it also shines for those who are not yet matured enough or haven't been striving hard enough to recognize the values of the sun.
Thank you again for your answer, Gregory. It just shows how nature works so different from how man is, that man will judge someone, if something they don't like about what somebody else has done and how they will react to them. And yet nature is like, we've talked about this abundant blessings from on high. And it's like always, however the person's attitude might be or maturity might be, the opportunity is always provided, to, if I can say, achieve perfection. I'm not quite sure that is absolutely maybe the correct term I'm using, but somehow the opportunity is always there given to every person, no matter how high or low somebody might think they are or others might think they are. This nature just gives to everyone. And you could say we could learn from that, we can learn from that, in fact, the word loves comes to mind, that love reaches to all, not or selected people, or these are the just and these are the unjust, so they don't deserve it. What I'm thinking, Gregory, these are like eternal processes, love and blessings. Is that correct? Am I saying that right? That these are eternal, and because on the earth things are limited in terms of time, and so what I'm pointing to, Gregory, are we always going to be given opportunity for the just and the unjust to become blessed always?
As one will find in nature, there is the concept of space, and there is the concept of time. The concept of space is such that structure can be erected, which structure could be erected in one's imagination, in one's spiritual maturity, ethereally. Sometimes these structures are erected physically. The structures could be that of housing. It could be that one sows a seed. In the case of farmer, as in having plants. Also, the case of the life of man on earth. These are structures, containers. So that's one may refer to as space. Using the same view, there is the concept of time. And the concept of time is that of the duration of these structures. Within creation, there is a duration depending on the level that these structures have come into being. So, because there is a duration within creation, it is not eternal. The forms, the structural forms which many a personality has created is not eternal. However, that which is eternal is that which has been created, or that which has always been. Those ones are referred to as divine structures. Love itself, in its primordial essence, has always been there. It hasn't changed. Therefore, one may talk of love as being divine. However, what one finds with the human personality is only a shadow of love, which shadow one may not even call love at all. And therefore, one classifies this of very short duration. As you rightly know, today one would say, "Oh, I love you to bits." 10 seconds later, attitude has changed. So, with human spirits, if they were to provide light, like the sun, they will ensure it shines only on them and not in quotes on their enemies or on any person who disagrees with them. Such you cannot call eternal. So there must be a differentiation of what real love is and what an imitation of love is. For love indeed is eternal.
Thank you again for your explanation, Gregory. It just shows again how man is so different in his behavior compared to nature. Although, as we pointed out, that actually we have come from nature. So there is, however, the examples are all there. What you've described there, it's clearly there, how you can become, aligned with nature, you can say. And, the love, the example of the word, this love, what you've just talked about, how it is eternal. So, I want to ask about, let me go on a slightly different angle, Gregory. We've had the pandemic, now more than a year now, and a lot of human beings have come together to help each other. People have been in lockdown, and some people, need extra support. Like they're stuck on their own. They can't drive or whatever it is that they're suffering, and then people have volunteered to come forward, to, let's say, help them go shopping or whatever sort of care they might need. And I saw that this morning on TV, that, as you know, Gregory, there was a clap for the NHS workers. They were seen as heroes, but also now there's a campaign that is being, put in the media now for volunteers who have came out, and and they were interviewing the volunteers, and they said, yes, of course they're trying to contribute and make a difference to those people who need the help, but they themselves have benefited. Maybe they were lonely before, and by just being active in some way, they've got benefits. Like, so for example, one example they gave was this very old 81-year-old lady. She can drive, and she felt, oh, let me help other people drive to their appointments or something, hospital appointments or something. And as she's taking the person to the appointment, they have a conversation and sharing about their lives and things. So it's like things which you wouldn't be doing because you're on your own. Now there's a incredible benefit, let's say unseen benefits, apart from the obvious benefit of the person who's getting the help and the lift. So what I want to say, Gregory, that's a human activity there. And of course you can call it a blessing. But can it be also called a blessing from on high? This human activity, like itself, which is self-motivated?
As with all activities, it is what lies behind it that triggers the returns in nature. Therefore, if the motive is triggered from a spiritual standpoint, then the blessings, the returns that accrue will be basically spiritually. If if the motive is just to alert the press or alert the neighbors and the wish to draw attention to oneself, if that's what triggered it, then in most cases, the laws of nature will ensure that that which is spiritual is not triggered. For there is no connection in triggering that which is very well calculated. The returns for such an activity may well be the clapping and things of that nature, and so much noise made on behalf of that person, which will make that particular person, in quotes, happy. As with everything, that which is beneficial, when it's said beneficial, that which is lasting, more is of spiritual origin, whereas that which you see basically is just done as a knee-jerk reaction and just to fill one's time, if the motive is not that of love, to be there for one, like it said, all for one and one for all, then it is shallow.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. You've painted the picture, about how, like something is genuine, and so it has to come from the spiritual, and that is what brings the benefit. Unless it's, or if it's calculated, then of course, that you can imagine that that's not going to have the same benefit as what comes from your genuine, you could say, your heart. So yes, I can see that, and the blessing will be according to that, the level of genuineness, you could say, that the activity has been, manifest, where it's coming from, the attitude, as you say. So thank you for bringing that out. And just to go another aspect of that, we talked about the clapping and recognition of, through thanking those people. Is it right, Gregory? Because in the end, everything comes from on high. They say all the blessings really come from on high, and it's nature that brings the reward. So should the thanks, Gregory, go to people, activity that has been done by people, should the thanks be given to them, or should it only thanks be given to the Almighty?
That particular question arose from time to time, and it keeps coming. And the equivalent is what was said: should we pay taxes to Caesar? And the answer was very clear and unequivocal. Unto Caesar, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and unto the Lord, give to the Lord Almighty. For those activities that have been carried out physically in support, it is only fair that thanks should be given. Not only thanks, many other things. Appreciation. Whereas for him that provided the power for continuous existence, through which that activity even took place, thanks, deep thanks that wells up from one's intuition should also be given, which rises higher and higher if it is heartfelt. So, unto Caesar, which is mundane. The mundane things, give thanks. The non-mundane things also give thanks. So there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, it encourages many a person to open up and do more.
Thank you for that again, Gregory. You're giving the context of, these activities. So once you see it, it's easy to tell, yes, how it's working, and how, just to see it, where everything belongs. Like you say, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to the Lord what belongs to the Lord. So once you see it, that's what you're doing, then it's all very straightforward and clear, and you can make sense. So thank you for that. Gregory, another sort of different question here. Again, something in the news that came out today. Basically, there's a new treatment called gene therapy which is basically in this particular use, some babies are born, with some defects and they just can't grow. They're basically a terminal condition where they don't live beyond the age of 2 because their bones and body is not growing normally. And this gene therapy is very actually. Well, I would first just want to say how it will work. How it works. It allows this baby to actually live, grow, let's say, normally as normally as possible at this moment, you can say, for the body to function, the bones to grow and things normally. And so they would put, I'm not quite sure they really know how long it's going to, so this thing will work for, let's say, long term, but what they can say for sure is the body will, the child will exist, definitely survive more than the age of 2 and, grow. I don't think they quite said normally, but it would try to get them to as normal as possible. So give them a good chance of future life, in a more healthy life. And my question on that, Gregory, is, and just to add another little aspect of it, it's a very expensive treatment. Apparently just the one treatment, it costs £1.9 million. That's you could call it the retail price, but the NHS fund managed to get a, let's say, reduced price. They don't tell us what it is. But anyway, so the most expensive treatment is a one-off treatment, they said. So my question, Gregory, on it is, it's all good when we have new developments, man discovering new ways of helping his fellow man. But I was wondering, are we tampering with nature when we do this type of some potential treatments that we come up with? Is that like not letting nature take its course, and we are, human beings, are tampering with it? And so, so in the end, maybe this, I can't really say if it'll work or not work, but is that right to do that, basically? Or maybe I'm not mislabeling it to be tampering.
The counter question one would ask, is it wrong to do it? And is it wrong to look into the structures? Which structure, like one discussed before, when I discussed space and then time? And along the line, we mentioned that the structures which through the volition of man has come into being. And in this particular case, the structure which the human personality had to use. And then there are those who decide to look into ways of improving the structure to see what then happens. There are those who, through so-called research in medicine or investigations, deeper investigations into medicines, are able to come to finer ways and smarter ways of doing it, such that it becomes beneficial to the human race. Do not forget, there are those who, when they are born, they have some deficiencies. And it's only fair that when these things are studied, solutions are found. There are cases where what you have in certain areas, some diseases, which diseases have been precipitated first in the ethereal environment due to non-observance, and subsequently many a person had to look into from this side what has happened and try to edit or rectify. Would one say it is wrong to go that far and provide a solution which is for the benefit of humanity, even if it's only for one person in the immediate, as an immediate need? The same thing goes for all medical practices, that only when in their investigations they work in harmony with nature. First step is to understand that which they sense is ideal, and then that which is not so ideal, and find ways of rectifying that which is in which parts have been taken from the earth, refined to produce a motor vehicle. Would one not call that one tinkering with nature? Here again, you have the scenario where many, due to some illness, could not breathe, and therefore man had to find a way of, in quotes, tinkering with nature by ensuring oxygen, having studied what is available, make sure oxygen is available and is given to these people. Should one have said we should not tinker, in quotes, and allow these people to perish? There are the cases where one had had one's limb injured, bruised, and in the so-called medical sciences, there had been support to ensure it heals in good time through further investigation. Would one call such things tinkering? It all depends on how these things are done. And unless you are privy to how these things are carried out, it becomes unjust to give expressions to discredit others who, through further sacrifice of their time and space, needs to provide help which will become beneficial to all.
Thank you again, Gregory, for your answer. It just shows how you should be looking at these things. Is it beneficial? And the people were trying to work out how nature works, and they're just, you could say, modifying to observe, whatever things like they're just doing that. But we don't think about the car or motor vehicle. We don't question that, or is that a tinkering with nature? Or let's say even trying to go around nature, bypass nature. Nobody questions about that and happy to go jump in the car. But with this other technology, maybe you're thinking, oh, are we playing something here? Playing almost like playing to be God. and but no, we are trying to help. So yes, if you see it in the right way, and you can actually see, what it is, what's behind it. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abrushi. If you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is abundant blessings from on high. Abundant blessings from on high. You can join in the discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 07939 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And we're broadcasting on blessradio1.com. That's blessradio, the number 1.com. Also, you can go to YouTube and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space live stream. That's for the live show. You can listen to the recording of the show the next day, also from YouTube. You go to youtube.com and then type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, Bless Radio 1, then space Grail Message, that's 2 words, Grail Message, and then space the topic of the show, which tonight is abundant blessings from on high. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well. Gregory, there's also some group of people, who like to pray for everything and to solve anything, and asking God to intervene, and I'm just thinking, is that also right to, before you begin anything, that you ask for God's help? Or can we just know the rules of nature, sort of make, or should we just come to know the rules of nature, basically?
When viewed from different angles, you'll find that it comes to the same. When it is said to know the rules of nature, who puts the rules of nature there? Those rules or laws are not arbitrary. The creator of nature put the rules there. That is, it is the will of the creator. By creator, one is referring to creation. By nature, one is referring to parts of creation. And therefore, the rules of the creator, which now are expressed as the laws of creation, are also the laws of nature. What many are unable to put together is, how did these rules come into existence that they maintain creation and also maintain nature. One may only say, or can only say, that these rules must have emanated from the Creator itself, and therefore one will say the source of these rules also come from on high. So they turn out basically to be the same thing. Therefore, the language which man must speak is to know how to speak this particular language which are expressed in the rules in asking through fervent activities. For what many call praying is a verbal way of asking. Verbal in the sense, just put it into words. If such activities is to reach up where it is granted, it must not only be tied to verbal expressions, but it must also spring, or it must also have an impact on the intuition of man, through which intuition is able to speak the language of nature, the language of creation, which is understandable to those who maintain creation, and is done in such a way that it rises to the extent where in reciprocity, which reciprocity is an integral part, an integral effect, an integral feature of creation, which then returns the possibility of granting that particular petition. If, however, one does not understand how to speak the language of nature or the language of creation, then it becomes a complete waste of time, even if in their imagination they consider they have done the right thing. For it is the language of nature or the language of creation that the Creator speaks to the creatures.
Thank you again, Gregory, for your answer. What you're showing is that we need to see the bigger picture. Put it, it's like there is a bigger picture, and when you see the bigger picture, all these things are like in one activity if you can see it right. And you might have, let's say, one aspect of it, but actually it's like we need to work from all angles. You could say this way, that is, yes, prayer is one way, but it works with the nature ways, and you just don't separate them again, like we said before, separating from nature. So it's like just recognizing that, coming to realize this. I have another question, Gregory, sort of related to that. We talked about prayer. There are some people, who take Jesus' name, let's say first, before they say the name of the Creator, God. as in equating Jesus to God, and I was thinking. And Jesus himself pointed to the Father, you know, everything he said in the name of the Father. And so, is that correct, Gregory, that when people who, obviously these are believers of Jesus, you could say Christians, but I just want to say believers of Jesus, who use his name to make whatever request they want to, or whatever they want, request, let's call it a request, they want, um, are they following what Jesus says, which is to go to the Father, and or yes, or is it okay when they use his name, Jesus' name, for the request?
Anyone is free to make requests in whatever expressions they deem fit. If, however, such expressions does not spring from one's intuition or does not get to one's intuition, such request becomes narrow, tied, and cannot rise on high. Is it wrong or right? Immaterial. For what does not spring from deep within man cannot rise high, and the response to such is narrow, if any at all. So the rightness or the unrightness of their expression is immaterial. It is what lies behind it. For that which is very deeply felt, which is heartfelt, and which spring of one's intuition, many would only stammer thanks, prayer of thanks, and they would adjust themselves to ensure that in their times of need, they know how to ask. And then subsequently, in being very observant, they themselves will find that even before such ask, that in the wisdom of the Almighty, a solution had always been staring at them in the face, which they themselves refused to follow. Then, hopefully, in that recognition, simplicity and humility will spring from deep within.
Thank you again for that, Gregory. Again, I can see that there's not like a formula that, oh, it has to be this way or that way. It's just the context we need to realize, you know. Is it pure, this prayer or request? You know, and so the answer, the response of this prayer, the request, would be according to, you know, how you stand and, you know, how deep it is. So yes, so it really, you know, whether they use God's name or Jesus' name is not the, let's say, the fundamental point. It's more about what is the source of it, what is behind it, basically. So thank you for bringing that out. Another thing I want to look at, Gregory, you know, people, you know, obviously suffering is happening. People are ill or having poverty, and but somehow they still find, you could say, you know, that they still have blessings that they acknowledge and appreciate. So, and some people might be surprised, oh, how come these people who are suffering still are have this how can I say, attitude where they can, just still, despite their suffering, be open to, see that their blessings will still come to them. So my question on that, Gregory, how is that? Yeah, a belief in these people that, oh, everything in the end will turn out good, because the Almighty is the power that brings the blessings. And so even if they're at this moment suffering, whatever illness or whatever situation they're having, they just have some confidence in themselves or trust that the Almighty will bring blessing to them in the end.
One question which many have not understood are these persons you mentioned, should you not be considered that even their current situation, context, is that itself not a blessing? Which blessing enabled them to reflect deeper than the shallowness they had been in the past? In the final analysis, it is the inner attitude of the personality that activates or not activates the automatic laws of creation and brings returns, which returns are beneficial for the human spirit. That which is beneficial for the human spirit does not mean it must be pleasant physically. And that has always been the error. That things which many a person will have to go through to mature in order to recognize are seen as unpleasant. It's like since many a person goes and they are so tight to the game of football. So when you now find a team training very hard, doing all sorts of things, bruising themselves, and coming out of it and running very fast, and seen from the outside, and then when they then win on the long run, they are happy, but they've forgotten the preparation which had to be put in. It is human presumed success and indolence that we'll see because someone is going through a particular scenario, which scenario, when viewed aright, is a blessing in itself, which some now call blessing in disguise. There has never been a blessing in disguise. A blessing remains a blessing. Creation offers the possibility for the human spirit to mature. There are many who, because they have made so much, in quotes, earthly resources, they are unable to wake up, and because they now live in comfort. If along the line, all that resources which they have piled up, which does not enable them to wake up spiritually, is then taken away all of a sudden, they call it punishment. Of course, because they have the wrong attitude to these things, they now say this is punishment. It is not a blessing. And you then find some counting They are blessings. Bless counting your blessings. The ability to count, is that itself not the attitude towards that which nature, which creation, which the Lord Almighty, or the attitude which man has towards what he or she regards as blessing has been wrong. For creation has made it possible for the human spirit, or the human spirit gem that has set out from its origin in the paradise of man as an unconscious spirit gem, had ensured that deep down below, opportunities are granted to it to mature. Is that alone not the greatest blessing that can befall the human spirit, and therefore must show gratitude every second, that is permitted to develop from a state of unconsciousness to a state of consciousness, and then to a final state of self-consciousness. Those attributes which it needs to continue to exist in perpetuity of self-consciousness, where it is able in a state to also disperse the blessings that it's able to draw to itself, strengthen itself, and pass it to others who are not as strong as itself. Are these not blessings? Why must they now narrow these things down to that which is pleasant to the physical body and that which does not seem so pleasant to the physical body? It is the wrong attitude that has caused this.
Thank you for this answer, Gregory. Again, you have shown that, it's how you see the situation, that what outwardly looks like suffering, but actually it's a blessing, because what is behind, as we say, what is behind it? What is the purpose? What you think looks like suffering, but actually it is something to benefit. And if you see it in that way, then it's not a suffering, it's a blessing. I have another question. I know normally we'd like to read something from the Grail Message, but I think it would be useful, Gregory, for this question. The earthly life, Gregory, it seems, let's say those who are, in quotes, believers of whatever teaching there are out there, there's people believe there's the earthly life and there's a heavenly life, and they think that earth life is a temporary life, which is the gateway to heavenly life, where that will be eternal life. And so whatever, in quotes, suffering that we experience on this earth, the reward is in heaven, for this, whatever we happens. I don't want to say the earthly life is all suffering, but let's say whatever we get here on the earthly experiences, it's like it's only a temporary thing. We have our birth, we have our death, and then, let's say, the reward of this, of our good deeds, if it is good deeds that we do achieve that, then we are rewarded this eternal life in heaven. So my question, Gregory, on that is that what it is? That the earth is like a, you could say, a preparation for us to, you could say, grow, but the real reward is actually in heaven. Oh, Gregory?
There is rewards everywhere. not only in heaven. There are many who, through their activity, have their rewards right before their eyes here on earth. There are some who have their rewards depending on the extent they have gone, right, in the immediate non-earthly, that is in the ethereal realm. There are some who have their rewards a bit higher, and there are some who haven't triggered from a spiritual standpoint, have their rewards spiritually. So the question is, where has man triggered the laws of nature or the laws of creation? If man has sown, that means triggered these laws at a particular level, then the rewards will spring up from that level. If a man has sown calculatingly here on earth, then most likely he will have his reward here on earth. So it depends on the depth of the sensing or of the sowing. So, of course, that which is sensed here, depending on the motive that drives it. If that motive is of such a noble nature, then the reward definitely, by reward, one is referring to the returns, which returns is conditioned by the laws of reciprocity, that like will ensure that the returns are like. So, when deep within man, what drives the driver or the motive is nobleness to ensure that fellow human spirits who, like him, set out from that distant region are supported. Then, two responses. Even on this level, there could be fellow human spirits who, in seeing that, will respond very quickly, physically. Secondly, the possibility is there that having moved a spiritual trigger, the laws of nature or the laws of creation will respond in reciprocity to balance up. That means pass on to that personality those values which are also spiritual. So, on the long run, that person is then blessed, not only materially, but also spiritually.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for that answer. I felt it was important that we covered that question because it just that sort of rounds off our show very, really, really well. So thank you, listeners, for joining us tonight on the topic of abundant blessings from on high. Gregory, anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wish them a beautiful week with the beautiful sun always there.
Thank you for that. So thank you, listeners, for joining us. As I said, just to remind you, if you are interested in the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, message, gmail.com. We'll be back again next Tuesday as usual, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. with another topic, which we'll be finding out then. I wish you all a great week. God bless. Take care, everybody. All the best. Goodbye.